last night. He's having one of the best seasons in baseball history. Is anybody noticing, and why? We'll talk about that next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, it's going to take something extraordinary, something out of this world to get me to talk about regular season baseball on a Football Friday. And again, I love baseball. Postseason's on the way. That's going to be fun. Don't think the Braves are going to be in it. I'll be fine. But to talk
Keep
about
that wild card hope alive, baby.
yeah, we'll see. But to talk about regular season baseball in September on a Football Friday, something unbelievable had to have happened. Well, it did. We are witnessing greatness. Well, not all of us are witnessing. More on that in a moment. But we are witnessing greatness in the sports world with Shohei Ohtani. When you think of players like Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, Barry Bonds, this guy is right there with them in terms of just how unbelievably good he is at playing the game of baseball. We are witnessing greatness. And not, is he the greatest of his generation? No. We may be seeing the greatest baseball player of all time. And we saw on display last night, dude goes 6 for 6. He enters into the 50-50 club. And it's a club that didn't exist before he got there. He created the club. There's a handful of guys in the 40-40 club. There was last year, Ronald Acuna got in the 50-40 club. And then all of a sudden, Shohei Ohtani this year, by the way, 2 years after being the Cy Young Award winner, being the best pitcher in baseball, he now has 51 home runs, 51 stolen bases. No one has ever done that in the history of baseball, on top of having an ERA somewhere around 3 as a starting pitcher. And we are seeing something that we never thought we would ever see in baseball. So here's my question. I remember in the early 90s when Ken Griffey Jr. was one of the biggest stars on the planet. There was a venture. I can't remember. It was so bad. I can't remember what it was called, but it was Michael Jordan, Ken Griffey Jr., and Wayne Gretzky got together and made a restaurant. Because back then it was like there was like the Hard Rock Cafe. There was I think Bruce Springsteen and Arnold Schwarzenegger and maybe Sly Stallone. What was that one called? What was the like Hollywood like? There was the big celebrities were making chain restaurants back then. They were so popular, I don't even remember what they were called. Could you look up, just because it's going to drive me nuts? Go Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, Ken Griffey Jr. restaurant venture. Because I'm curious what it was called. Anyways. But Ken Griffey Jr. was one of the most popular athletes not just in baseball, but in America. You had when McGuire and Sosa in 1998 were on a home run race.
You sure it was those three?
I don't know.
Okay, there's nothing coming up on those three.
Look, just see if did Wayne Gretzky ever open a restaurant? Why do I have this crazy memory that those guys were all opening up a restaurant? Anyways. I don't know, Justin. Might have been making it up in my head. It might have been just a commercial.
I'm trying. He's got a restaurant in Toronto, but nothing too like famous. So it'll come to you.
I doubt it. Moving forward. But you go back to the 90s, right? Ken Griffey Jr. was an absolute superstar. Like, maybe not to the level of Michael Jordan, but was close. He was close. When Cal Ripken Jr. broke Lou Gehrig's streak, it was front page news everywhere. Everywhere. 1998, the sports world and really the pop culture world were obsessed with McGuire and Sosa and their home run chase going after Roger Maris' 61 home runs. And by the way, Shohei Ohtani might be having a better season than all of those guys combined, because not only is he 50-50, not only is he, even though I know he's got the He had the arm surgery, so he can't pitch this year, but he will pitch again. But his team's going to the playoffs. And if you remember back then when McGuire broke the home run record, I don't believe the Cardinals made the playoffs. The Cubs did, but the Cardinals didn't.
And there's the point of steroids in there too, is there not?
Well, yeah, but we didn't know it back then.
Yeah, that's fair.
We were in denial back then. We kind of knew it, but we were in denial. Like, these guys look like pro wrestlers. Why? I just think they're working really hard.
Yeah, all good.
But they were all massively popular. Massively popular. As popular as any player in any sport not named Michael Jordan. Right? Michael Jordan was an enigma. He was out. He was in his own universe. MJ was. After that, McGuire, Sosa, Cal Ripken Jr., Griffey, the top players in baseball, they were all immensely popular. So what's going on now? Let's dive into this. Now, the easy, simple, kind of lazy, but just because it's lazy doesn't make it wrong, answer is, well, Ohtani's not as popular as anybody because he's not an American-born player. That's a fair argument. It's a fair argument. I think there are other factors in play here, though. But it is a fair argument. When you think of major sports celebrities, international foreign-born athletes do not rise up to the level of American-born athletes. They just don't. Giannis, Luka, Joel Embiid, and we'll see what happens with Wemby. Wemby might change the entire dynamic of what I'm talking about now, but you think about all the foreign-born players. They're popular. They ain't Steph, and they ain't LeBron. All right? They ain't Steph, and they ain't LeBron. Even now, as Steph and LeBron enter into the twilight of their careers, they're still, in terms of overall popularity, Steph's getting kids to buy ugly shoes. I mean, that's how popular he is. So there's the first part of it, is he's not an American-born player. And then the other part of it is, and you have to, and I learned this about Ichiro. Because if you remember, Ichiro, when he was in Seattle, always spoke through an interpreter. Always spoke through an interpreter. And it was a pretty big deal because they were like, well, how does Lou Piniella talk to Ichiro? And they're like, well, they both speak Spanish. And so, because Ichiro knew how to speak Spanish, and it's how he would talk to his catcher, or that's how he talked to his man. And so, and then I remember going and talking to people who cover the Mariners, and they're like, Ichiro could speak perfect English. He could speak perfect English. But here's the thing. To honor the fans in Japan, Japanese baseball players always use interpreters. It's an honor thing. It's a cultural thing. It is disrespectful to your fans of your home country if you learn and speak English. That's why Shohei is going to always speak through an interpreter. I don't know Shohei Ohtani, but I would be willing to bet he speaks fine English. But it is a Japanese culture thing that when you come over to America, you use the interpreter and you honor your fans back home and your countrymen back home by speaking Japanese. So there's that. It's kind of tough to sell Wheaties or Gatorade or or endorse products when you don't speak English. So there's that. But I think there's other factors here in play. Let's dive into them one by one. Baseball has become a postseason sport, much like college basketball, much like really the NBA a smidge. It's become a postseason sport. We love the dog days of summer in terms of, hey, you get on the train, you drive, you take the train up to Seattle, right? Head up to the ball game. You watch a couple of ball games at T-Mobile. You have a hot dog, you have a beer, you sit in the sunshine, hopefully. That's great and all, but in terms of the amount of people that are like we are in the NFL, going day in and day out, following a team, watching, those numbers are down. People will watch entire games in the postseason. Most fans, average Joe, everyday fan, unless you are in a baseball market, which is St. Louis, New York, Boston, unless you're in a baseball market, even in L.A., right, the famous Dodger fans, they never see the first 2 innings and they never see the last 2. L.A. traffic might have something to do with that as well. So with baseball being a postseason sport, the fact that Shohei Ohtani has never played a postseason baseball game, I think factors in here a little bit. Mike Trout, right? Well, Mike Trout was the greatest player of his generation. His numbers, his statistics, his accolades, through the roof. Why isn't Mike Trout immensely popular? Never had a postseason moment. Never had a championship moment. Baseball is becoming a postseason sport. And Shohei Ohtani's never played in the postseason. So I think that might be a factor. The other thing is, and Rob Manfred takes a lot of criticism, some of it fair, some of it foul. See what I did there? Very proud of myself. But one of the things that Manfred, I think, has fumbled, using a football analogy, talking about baseball, MLB's terrible at marketing. MLB is terrible at marketing. NFL markets itself, right? NFL, you don't have to have marketing. You want to know why? Because you got fantasy football, and you play on Sundays and Thursdays and Mondays, sometimes Saturdays. But you play on the weekend. It's once a week. It's served up on the structure of the NFL is served up on a silver platter. Plus, you get the fantasy football element of it. But MLB, and if you go back, and this is kind of some nerdy media stuff, have been very bad about copyright stuff. What do I mean by that? Well, the kids watch things on TikTok. The kids watch things on YouTube. The kids watch things they get Snapchats and InstaFace. Well, Major League Baseball for years, with an iron fist, did not let any of their stuff out of their own control. So when you go as a young sports fan and you go scrolling through Instagram Reels, unless it was an owner or a MLB approved clip, it would get copyrighted. It would get pulled off. It's off the algorithm. Marketing has been terrible to kids because you have to market on social media. Every Gen Xer knows the phrase I'm about to say. Without the express written consent of Major League Baseball is prohibited. Any retransmission or rebroadcast of this event without the express written consent of Major League Baseball is prohibited. We all heard that in every game growing up. Braves on TBS, Cubs on WGN, without the express written consent. Well, that culture has continued into where baseball, they want to control all of it, and they're terrible at letting their media out. So I think that's a big problem. Marketing players in baseball has been a problem. Grumpy old man alert. We have less attention span than we used to. We just do. The world has gotten faster, and our attention span has gotten shorter, and 162 games. And before they instituted a pitch clock, 3.5 hours per game, nobody's got that kind of time. Shohei Ohtani is not one of the best or most popular athletes in all of sports. And to say that it's simply because he's foreign-born is part of it, but neither is Aaron Judge. Now, Aaron Judge is a popular athlete, but Brendan, he ain't no Patrick Mahomes. You know what I mean? He's no LeBron and Steph. He's an American-born player playing in New York, socking dingers, doing all the fun stuff, and Aaron Judge is immensely popular. He ain't LeBron and Steph. He ain't Patrick Mahomes. He's not even Travis Kelce. That Taylor Swift thing might have something to do with that.
Yeah,
but he ain't
Travis Kelce be Travis Kelce without Tay-Tay?
We'll never know.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll never know. But
I mean, athletically speaking, sure, but he reached a new level of popularity dating Taylor Swift. Nobody can deny that.
He went from being on SportsCenter to the Today Show.
Yes.
That's where I always, that's my barometer.
As a tight end.
As a tight end.
Yes. So let's put that in perspective. Don't think Tony G was on the Today Show very much.
As a tight end, yeah. No,
Antonio Gates. Don't think those guys
me,
were rocking it with David Muir and Good Morning America and everybody.
No,
Don't
David
think so.
Muir, I don't know. David Muir's on Good Morning America.
That's
He's
true.
on
He's
ABC News
tonight,
and he hosts 2020 with Deborah. I can't remember Deborah's name.
But you know
Deborah
what I mean.
Norville.
Like,
Deborah
he's a
Norville.
tight end. Man.
They host 2020. It's a great show. You're going to get old and you're going to watch shows on Friday night like 2020 and Dateline. It's going to be great. But yeah. TJ Hawkinson wasn't being talked about with Jen and Hoda.
No.
So yeah, Taylor Swift. But do you see my point? I don't know if it's because baseball has done a bad job of marketing its athletes, or if our attention span as sports fans has gotten so short that baseball probably took the biggest hit, because football is dealt out in morsels, right? If you have a short attention span, football is perfect for you. It's once a week. And then, you know what they do after every play? They take a break. And then after they play a quarter, you can go to the bathroom. You can scroll through your phone. You can watch a video on your phone, pause, look up. All right. Swing pass to the right. Got it. Back to your phone. Like, if you have a short attention span, football is perfect for you. It's little bite-sized morsels for a good 2.5 to 3 hours once a week. Baseball's a grind. And I love the grind, but it's a grind. So I've got marketing. I've got no postseason. I've got short attention span, international player. You put all those things together, and what you have is one of the most special seasons. And here's the other thing. You know, you made the joke, Brendan, but it's appropriate here. Baseball for decades, if not centuries, celebrated the accomplishments of numbers. Steroid era came in and essentially nullified the entire record book. It did. It nullified the entire record book. Football, you watch it and you see, man, that is amazing. I can't believe the athleticism there. Basketball, kind of the same way. Somebody scores 35 points. We know that's a pretty good night. Forever, baseball had these numbers. 755, 61, right? It had these numbers, 40-40. And then the steroid era came in and wiped it all away. Numbers don't mean anything anymore. And also, we've become inundated with all sorts of other numbers like WAR, defensive WAR, FIP, crazy amounts of analytics. You put all that together, and you get one of the greatest seasons in Major League Baseball history happening right in front of our face, and it's kind of a thing. I mean, it was a thing, obviously, last night, but Aaron Rodgers winning a Week 3 game on Thursday Night Football was the lead on SportsCenter. Not Shohei Ohtani going 6 for 6 with 10 RBIs and joining the 50-50 club for the first time ever. Now, I've just said all of that. Guess what we're talking about next? Football. That's right. College football heads into Week 4. We're already in Week 4. This is nuts. We're going to dive into maybe some upset alerts. Get Brendan's thoughts on Purdue as they come to Reser Stadium as we go on campus next, 620 Rip City Radio. right, it is a football Friday. New York Jets get the win last night. We may have to, later on in the show, play our fun game. Are they good? With the New York Jets. Patriots went back to looking like the Patriots we thought. Drake May?
Yeah, I got so bad.
Is it Drake May time now? Is it already time to pull the plug on the Jacoby Brissett experiment
and
put the young guy in? It was so bad.
Start there.
So we may dive into that a little bit later. We're going to talk to our good friend Joel Gunderson is going to be joining us in hour number 2, and we have got a full slate of college football games coming up. Week 4, as the old-timey conductors used to call it, the quarter pole of the football season. Let's dive into it as we go on campus. All right, let's go down to Corvallis, Reeser Stadium. Brendan, how we feeling? It's Friday now. By Monday, Tuesday, you were a little uneasy about this game. Line's been floating around. Beavs favored by 4.5. Kind of like what we talked about with Mike Parker yesterday. And this is what happens in not only an NIL and transfer portal world, but in a world where Oregon State loses a head coach and you had to refill everything. In 3 games for the Beavs, and you follow them as closely as any, still don't quite have a feel on this team. Fair to say?
Yeah, very fair.
Because I don't think they are the team that got their teeth kicked in the second half against Oregon. I don't think they're going to be a doormat type team. I don't know if they're the team that was so massively dominant defensively against San Diego State. Maybe potentially, but 3 games in, still have some things to learn, which is going to be fascinating. How are we feeling about this game? Confident? Uneasy?
Yeah, I think there's a decent level of confidence going into this game. Purdue was really, really bad. But at the same token, you can never take anything for granted. Because, again, this will be another team that physically can go toe-to-toe with Oregon State for 4 quarters. In 2 weeks, when you play Colorado State, they won't be able to go physically with you toe-to-toe for 4 quarters.
Yeah.
So that being said, Oregon State can't overlook them, but I like their chances, Justin. They'll be at home. Good opportunity to kind of get the CW taste out of your mouth a little bit. But
Purdue's coming off of a 66-7 butt whooping.
Yeah, but like Mike Parker said, Hudson Card, he was Sark's boy at one point, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's, I get it's the, players are magic, Justin, but he was kind of good at Texas. So, we'll see what happens. But I like Oregon State by about 10 in this game.
I'm going to say this at the risk of making myself sound silly when I talk about Dylan Gabriel later on, but is there something about, I know he played at Texas, but maybe there's a reason why he's at Purdue now? I mean, look, Dylan Gabriel is from Oklahoma. It's like, well, why isn't he still at Oklahoma? And I think every circumstance is unique, and I think Dylan Gabriel's was a unique circumstance. Clearly, was it Hudson Carr?
Yeah, Hudson. Because
that's a good quarterback.
Because he and Malik Murphy both took off in the last 2 years. Malik Murphy.
Yeah, because I think they took a look at both Quinn Ewers, and then they said, wait, the Manning guy's coming here. We're never going to play.
But yeah, so again, a guy that Oregon State tried to recruit out of the portal a couple years ago. He was actually on campus for a visit before they went with DJU. So, it's not a game I'm worried about. I think the spread's fair. But if Oregon State doesn't show up, Justin, like they didn't in the second half against Oregon, Purdue can beat you. So that's the key here. Is there are some teams coming up where Oregon State could not have their best and still win. This is a game you kind of need to come in and leave no doubt.
All right, other games of note in college football this weekend. Big one in the Big 12.
Who we got?
We got Utah and Oklahoma State.
Ooh, the running Utes.
And this line has been bunkers. I believe it's shifted about 5 points. Welcome to Cam Rising and Kyle Whittingham's fun little game, right?
It's their house of horrors, man.
Currently, Oklahoma State favored by 2.5. I believe the line started with Utah favored by 3. And there's a lot of people who think, but we saw this all year last year where somebody felt like they had insider knowledge with Cam Rising and whether or not he was going to play, and then the line would shift about 5 points, and then we would show up and realize, yeah, you know nothing, Jon Snow. Kyle Whittingham will not tell you anything. So,
I mean, is Cam Rising like the Ben Simmons of football?
Except for I believe Cam Rising wants to play football. I don't know if Ben Simmons wants to play basketball.
Fair.
But
just like injury year after year after year.
I know. It's
and I love
it's unfortunate.
I
because
love Kyle Whittingham. I love Cam Rising, but it's like at a certain point, you're like, bruh, come on.
Well, he should have just. Well, I shouldn't say anybody should just pack it up because play football as long as you can. Because when you're done, you're done. But like, boy, is he ever going to peak when they beat USC 2 years ago in the Pac-12 championship game?
That might have been his peak.
It might be. Unless they win the Big 12 and he comes back.
Makes a playoff run, yeah.
But you've got Utah at Oklahoma State. Like I said, 2.5 point. Utah's 2.5 point dogs on the road. I wouldn't touch that game because I don't know if Cam Rising is going to be playing. Big Ten, big matchup. USC to Michigan, the big house. USC favored by 5.
I like the Trojans.
I like the Trojans big, and maybe I'm silly. Maybe I've got just that bad Michigan Texas game.
Nah, Michigan sucks.
I don't know if they suck, but I don't know if they're good.
Yeah, fair enough. I can find a word in the middle, but yeah, I don't believe in Sharon Moore. I don't believe in what Jim Harbaugh left, and
here's the only thing about USC. USC looked to erase the demons of the last 2 years in one game against LSU, right? Which they can tackle now. They're physical now. Well, we don't know that quite yet. Everybody saw LSU against South Carolina. LSU gets bullied in the SEC under Brian Kelly. That's not the LSU under Ed Orgeron. That's not the LSU previously under Les Miles, right? That's the LSU under Brian Kelly. So I don't know if I fully believe that USC is now this massive physical team, but I think they're going to put up a ton of points. And then lastly, in the SEC, the big matchup is Tennessee heading to Oklahoma. Yesterday afternoon, Dwight asked me, he said, outside of Ohio State, Texas, and Georgia, who's the best team in the country? Brendan, I believe it's Tennessee. I do. I believe it's Tennessee. Now, if Oklahoma shows up at home, smacks them in the mouth, and Tennessee gets exposed for frauds, I'm going to have to come on the air on Tuesday because I'm taking Monday off and say I'm a big dumb doofus. I don't think I'm going to have to say that, though, because I think Tennessee is going to walk into Norman and Nico Iamaleava. Learn to say that name. That's him pitching it all over the yard. I think Tennessee rolls in Norman, but could be wrong on that one. They might be fool's gold. We got so much more to talk about. We've got 2 more hours of the big show. Joel Gunderson joins us. We got some NFL talk as well. Hour 2 next, 620 Rip City Radio.
7 a.m. on a Friday morning. Brennan Slaughter with you for Rip City Mornings. Thursday night was coming up all Ohtani as he becomes the first player to achieve 50 homers and 50 stolen bases in a season. Ho-hum just came in a 20-4 rout over Miami when he had 3 home runs, 2 stolen bases, and 10 RBIs. Meanwhile, in the NFL, Aaron Rodgers led the Jets to a statement 24-3 victory over the New England Patriots in his home debut in New Jersey. And Joel Embiid agrees to a 3-year, $192 million extension, keeping him as a 76er for the foreseeable future. Coming up in about 20 minutes, we're going to catch up with Joel Gunderson from Scoop Duck, talk the Ducks in the bye week. You've got Rip City Mornings.
Hey, happy Friday, everybody. Hopefully you are having a tremendous Friday morning. If you are new to the program, welcome. Thanks for hanging out. If you like what you hear, maybe tell a friend. Maybe a friend was nice and told you, and you could repay that friend by telling another friend. And if you're a returning customer, we appreciate you coming back brick by brick. We're building up Rip City Mornings, everybody. Earlier this morning, I was talking about a chain restaurant owned by athletes. Couldn't remember the name. Brendan, I have remembered the name. It was the All-Star Cafe.
Oh, yeah. Nope.
You ever heard of the All-Star Cafe?
Nope, and didn't find that when doing the research either.
Now, I was wrong about Michael Jordan, but it was Wayne Gretzky, Joe Montana, Shaquille O'Neal, Ken Griffey Jr., Andre Agassi, and Monica Seles, who was a very popular tennis player back in the day, all invested in the All-Star Cafe, which was obviously an upgraded stadium cuisine-focused restaurant. Doomed to fail. Last All-Star Cafe closed in 2007. But from 97 to 2001, it was a heyday. Where are you at on theme restaurants? Where are you at? No, I'm not talking chain restaurants because I love a good chain restaurant. There's nothing wrong with an Applebee's. Certainly nothing wrong with a Red Robin. And we had a very fun Olive Garden discussion yesterday. But I'm talking theme restaurants. I'm talking Bubba Gump Shrimp Company. I'm talking Hard Rock Cafe. What else is out there? Where are you at on theme restaurants? You ever been to one?
Yeah, I mean, I've been there. I've been to some.
Been to a Bubba Gump Shrimp Company?
Of course.
I've never been there.
Oh, many times.
Many times?
Oh, yeah. A couple times in Hawaii, a couple times in California. Oh, yeah.
Jimmy Buffett Margaritaville. You ever been to one of those?
That's where I met Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul. So.
Well, how about it?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But have you ever, sat in a Margaritaville?
Yeah.
And had a cheeseburger in paradise? Probably you didn't get the cheeseburger. You probably got the chicken strips.
It's true. And and he's not wrong because the Florida Keys are absolute paradise. So he knew what was up.
So you're down with
It's a daily reminder here on the water bottle, Justin. What's the one sticker on the water bottle say?
I have no idea. I can't read that far.
Keys.
Okay.
That's what I said. It's a great reminder of what Jimmy Buffett called paradise down there, man. Margaritaville.
When you go visit a place.
Yeah.
What do you bring back to commemorate that you went to that place? Because, for a long, long time, and you see them all the time, the Oregon coast, you ever go to Seaside, and you'll get there'll be just a souvenir shop, and it'll just say Oregon coast, or it'll say Seaside, or you'll see people that'll have a sweatshirt that says Montana, and it's did you go to Montana? Or Hawaii's got a ton of them, right? You can't throw a rock in Hawaii, which you shouldn't be throwing rocks, but you can't throw a rock without hitting just a Hawaii, Maui, or wherever. Are you magnet guy? Are you a shot glass guy? Sticker guy? When you go on a trip to a place, how do you commemorate said trip? Or how did your family do it when you were a kid? I bet you your family, when you went on trips, got something to go either on the fridge or on a knick-knack shelf.
Yeah, they weren't super big into the knickknacks. I kind of had to create that myself.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Mom liked magnets. I'm not a big magnet fan. I like stickers. I like shot glasses. And my new thing that I've done just in the last couple of years is keychains.
Going keychains.
I've got one from Texas, one from Mexico.
Do you put them all on the keys or do you rotate them?
No, right now they're all on there. All on there. So it's getting a little long and obnoxious, but I'm like, hey, it's kind of like a it's kind of like just like putting notches in your belt, right?
You would probably find me boring because I don't do keychains. I have see these are my keys right here. I got fob to my car, fob to wife's car, house, my car key, parents' house. Something about keys getting all bulky in my pockets. I don't like it.
Yeah, I very rarely have keys in my pocket. They're more in like a big jacket pocket or something along those lines. But no, yeah,
But you go keychain.
I got 4 of them on there. Like I said, I got Texas,
You got
Cabo,
4 keychains.
Texas, Cabo, the Keys, and Hawaii. And yeah, it's a little bulky, but again, it's a nice. It makes me feel good. Just like, oh yeah, I've done all those trips in the last 2 years.
Also, tip of the cap to our good buddy Comanche on Twitter, because I think I was combining the All-Star Cafe with the cartoon known as the Pro Stars, and the Pro Stars was a cartoon with Bo Jackson, Michael Jordan, and Wayne Gretzky back in the day, and I think I was combining those two memories to create something in my brain. All right, we're going to talk some college football, in particular the Oregon Ducks, coming up in a handful of minutes. We're going to play our fun new game that we created on Tuesday, which is, are they good? New York Jets win 24-3. Aaron Rodgers looks sharp. Now they beat the Patriots. They're 2-1. Their only loss is to the 49ers. A lot of teams, I believe, are going to lose to the 49ers, even though 49ers are dealing with their own set of injuries. But they've beaten the Titans. They've beaten the Patriots. And those two teams, along with the Carolina Panthers, might be battling it out for Quinn Ewers. Or maybe Shedeur Sanders. I don't know. Can't criticize Shedeur Sanders, though, because that would make me jealous. Did you hear that? That if you criticize any college player, especially a college player on Colorado, even though no other college player on Colorado has been criticized except for one who had the last name Sanders, it's because they're making NIL money and we're all jealous. I don't know if you knew that. So I'm not going to criticize Shedeur Sanders anymore. Or even though I never really did, because I don't want to be looked at as, I don't want to be green with envy, Brendan. I don't want to be looked at as the jealous type. I believe it was the Gin Blossoms. The Gin Blossoms had a song called "Hey Jealousy." I don't want Dion coming after me, calling me jealous because these guys. Because nobody ever criticized Baker Mayfield when he was in college because he wasn't making any money. Nobody criticized Johnny Manziel.
Baker was never criticized for his play. Baker was criticized for a.
Is anybody criticizing Shedeur for his play, or they're all criticizing Shedeur because of the whole handshake thing and the Instagram stuff?
I mean, Shedeur's just a spoiled child. Like
he's
he's
a brat.
Yeah,
he is. He's a brat. Now
it's not hard. Like I know, Justin, you're not quite in the world of kids. But
I am not. But was ever the opposite. I'm there.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who grew up and was not a spoiled brat, you can kind of point one out like a sore thumb.
I just Dion.
Not that hard.
Dion is grasping at straws at this point. It's like, oh well, you know what? They never made any money, and you guys wait. Dion, wait a minute. I was there when everybody was piling on Johnny Manziel. Everyone was piling on Johnny Manziel. I was there when everyone started. Now again, he was probably post college. Everybody started piling on to Manti Te'o for his fake girlfriend, and criticizing him for manipulating the marketing. I was there when Baker Mayfield, gave a. I don't want to do it on YouTube. It's inappropriate at 7:09, Brendan. But you know what he did to the Kansas bench? You remember that, right?
Yeah, actually, I didn't mind that.
But
only because
neither did I. But you know what? A lot of people piled on Baker Mayfield back then and criticized him. None of those guys were making NIL.
Yeah.
But now we're all jealous. I got it, Dion.
Yeah, I don't think I said all like to your point, Justin. A little vulgar, but considering that Derek Carr whipped it out this weekend,
yeah,
we'll be talking about that in Make or Miss. So we'll get back to that.
Derek Carr from the vault.
I love it. I love it. But it shouldn't surprise you, Justin. I've told you this before.
No, we're all jealous. I get it. We're all jealous, even though not one player who's not named Shedeur has ever been criticized. Has anybody criticized Travis Hunter at all this year? Zero, zilch, none, nada.
He doesn't talk much, so that's helpful.
And he's also phenomenal, and he's probably going to be the best player in the draft. That's not a quarterback, and even as quarterback, he might be the best player in the draft. And nobody criticizes that guy. So who's Dion talking about? You guys you media, you all attack these players. Like, who? Who's being singled out? Who's being criticized? And I think you're confusing social media with actual media. Because when the Twitter army comes out and goes after people, well, that's a little bit different. Anyways, Dion's grasping at straws. He knows the end is near. He pulled a fast one on Colorado, and he got his kid a quarterbacking job that he couldn't have gotten without daddy taking a Power 4 job. Congratulations.
Again, for how long? I mean, Dion probably put a participation trophy in his crib.
Here's what I'm wondering. And maybe I'm being a hater. Maybe. If Deion Sanders doesn't take the Colorado job, if Deion Sanders doesn't coach, does Shedeur play starting quarterback for anybody in a Power 4 on a Power 4 team?
Yeah.
He was third string at Florida State.
Well, I mean, he could have started for Oregon State this year, no question. So
but do you think they would have recruited him? I don't know.
Where he was, probably not. But, there would have been a team like that. I mean, Washington State got Cam Ward from what, Tech?
It's like, all these guys are getting NIL because you're jealous. Like, Shedeur gets NIL because he's Dion's kid.
I mean, someone would have taken that shit. I mean, just because we've seen dudes take the FCS to FBS leap. I mean, Oregon State has a starting quarterback there this year. Washington State with Cam Ward, now at Miami. So it would have been possible, and the name would have helped. But no, I don't know if it would have been anointed as, oh, yeah, he's going to be the top pick in the draft.
We're all jealous. That's as they say, that's rich. All right, I've been distracted. I let Dion do it to me again. I let him distract me again. Brennan, are the Jets good? I think they might be good. Obviously, it depends on the health of an older quarterback, a 38-year-old quarterback.
I mean, that defense is nasty. We knew that coming into the year.
Mm-hmm.
This is a prove-it year for Robert Saleh, who'd find himself back on Kyle Shanahan's staff if he didn't win this year. Regardless of what happened. Like, it's the Saleh experience has happened. They
How
need
much
to
of
win.
a benefit does Robert Saleh have having Aaron Rodgers, a guy who has been, say what you will about Aaron Rodgers, and people have said plenty about Aaron Rodgers, but the guy has been around NFL football a really long time. And
we all know about darkness retreats now.
But I think that kind of veteran experience can help a coach that has been prone to, like peaks and valleys. And I think you saw it last night. The awkward exchange between the two. Did you see that? And I know everybody wanted to make a whole thing out of it, and then you found out, it's like, oh, no, it was just he went for the hug, and Aaron Rodgers went for the shove in the chest. It's like when it was like the football version of when I go for the high five and you go for the fist bump, and then you change.
I'd say this to Robert. Aaron Rodgers doesn't even like to hug his own family, so maybe hugging's not his thing, man. The Bachelor taught us so much about Aaron Rodgers. I'll tell you what, Justin. That was you mentioned The Bachelor yesterday or the day before. Mm-hmm. That was the last time I watched The Bachelor.
With Jordan Rodgers?
Yep, that was the last time.
And JoJo?
That was the last time I was into The Bachelor. And when you hear, no one in Aaron Rodgers' family.
The season with Wells? I think Wells was on that season.
And it's like, it turns out no one in Aaron Rodgers' family and Aaron Rodgers speak. So go figure.
I think the Jets are good. They got the Broncos this weekend. They get the Vikings after that. Both those games at home. Then they got the gauntlet of the Bills and the Steelers.
Well, and they're lucky because they get the division, Justin, with Tua being gone. The Dolphins are...
Tua's out.
Yeah,
that's
a good time for them.
Patriots stink. The Bills are still very, very good. All right. We have got Joel Gunderson joining the show next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, is everything fixed in Eugene? Are the Ducks back on track? Did they? You know how with a Ziploc bag, every once in a while, like you can't get the sandwich bag closed, and it's like, or like because they all have like the resealable package, you just can't get it, and then finally like get it. Did the Ducks get back on track with a big win against the Beavs in Corvallis? Joining us now to talk about that and a multitude of other things. Friend of the program, glad to get him back on the big show. Boy, it's been some stuff going on with old Gundy these last couple of weeks, but we got him back on the show. Joel Gunderson from Scoop Duck, friend of the program. Joel, good morning. How we doing, bud?
Not in the hospital. I'm not at work. I'm not doing anything weird. So, Oregon's back. Everything's fine. We'll talk to you later. Thanks.
Nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. All right. Let's dive into this because we need to start with this. I remember being there at the Idaho game and thinking, maybe overlooked, maybe keeping some things close to the vest. I remember after the Boise game going like, this is getting a bit concerning. And then now after the Oregon State game, are you still on the, hey, there's some things that still I'm not quite comfortable with, or do you think that there was just kind of a 2-week adjustment period with some transfers and a new quarterback, and that the Oregon State game is more of who Oregon is for the foreseeable future as opposed to maybe the Boise game?
I think it's probably somewhere in the middle. I think the second half of the Oregon State game is probably a little bit more in line with what we're thinking. Look, entering halftime against Oregon State, there was still some questions there. I mean, obviously the offense looked a lot better, but the run gaps on defense were pretty awful. You saw them clean it up pretty quickly at halftime. But look, I think it's if anybody had any questions at any point of the game of football about how important your offensive line is, but almost more important, like how important continuity in your offensive line is. Just look at the first two games. And I think with Idaho, you're right. I think it's a little bit of maybe some sleepwalking through. I think with Boise State, they probably countered that with almost a little bit too much intensity, a little bit too much anxiety going into that game, feeling like we have to go out and prove something. And I think they got a little bit over their skis for a little bit. Also in that game, though, if Patrick Herbert doesn't fumble that ball, they probably go up 14. They probably end up winning by 21 or 28 points, and it's a different narrative. So, if you asked me on Friday, August 30th, about Oregon's bye week after Game 3, I would have said I hated it. It was horrible timing. If you had asked me Sunday, September 1st, I would say you can't get here fast enough. And now after the 3 weeks that we've seen, I think it's actually a really good thing that they're heading into it. I think going into it with some momentum, clearly they saw in the second half. You could say probably the entire Oregon State game. I mean, in reality, it wasn't that bad the first half once you go back and look at it. Much better, much cleaner performance. Now they have a chance to really continue to get healthy and build off of that last game. And the coaches can spend this entire week saying, look, when you guys put it together and you focus and you don't shoot yourselves in the foot, this is how good we can be, because aside from UCLA not being very good, now the real games begin. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they come out of it. But I think what you said, a little bit of a combination of all of it the first few weeks, but I think they're going to be all right.
Joel Gunderson from Scoop Duck joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. I agree with you with the offensive line and the continuity and all of that. I think one of the other things that plagued Oregon in the first two games that did not plague them in the Oregon State game was kind of silliness. You know what I mean? Dumb stuff. You mentioned the fumble, like in that position of the ball game. That's when you secure the football. Dumb penalties, dumb holding out in the middle of the field when you're behind the play, and then Trayshawn Holden getting up and getting a personal foul penalty. And I've seen seasons, Joel, where some teams never get over that. They're just a team that does kind of dumb stuff. And I've seen it where, as we've talked about, they get it cleaned up. I think maybe for me that was the most encouragement I saw in that game against Oregon State. They seemed to clean up the silly stuff.
Well, it's funny with under Lanning. One of the things that I did on Scoop Duck before the season started is I said one of his best traits is that when Oregon's in a game where they should win, they absolutely take care of business, and that was so evident over the first couple of years. One of the exceptions, I think, was the Texas Tech game last year. Even though they won, the parallels between that game and the Boise State game this year were so eerie. Second game of the year, a game they should win, but where you could see that the opponent would cause problems. And Oregon just in both those games did nothing but shoot themselves in the foot. And so after that game last season, they really turned it around. I think they got the message. And certainly game 3 this year, they seem to have gotten it as well. So maybe it's just sort of a game 2 thing for this squad where they face an opponent that's a little bit tricky based on circumstances or location or whatever it is. They make a lot of mistakes, and then Lanning has a chance to really, kind of, put the foot down and say enough of this, and they take it over. But, they did last year, and we saw after that Texas Tech game just how good they were. And, even the Washington game a few weeks later, that proved to be one of the, probably most difficult environment I had seen in the past 4 or 5 years in all of college football. That place was unbelievable, and Oregon still had a chance to win it. And then they went on a stretch for the next 6 weeks where they looked like arguably the best team in the country. Now, is the ceiling of this team as high? I think it is when you talk, because we talked about it before the season, talent-wise, this is probably the best roster Oregon's ever had. Now, offensively, it feels a little bit different. It doesn't quite feel like they have that ability like they did last year where it's just going to be consistent every game. But it feels like they have a little bit more potential for explosion when you talk about like the wide receiver unit and stuff. And Gabriel is not Nix, and that's okay because he doesn't need to be. But if he can be what he was this past Saturday, that's all they want. Just the first 2 games, a couple of the errors were his fumbles, him turning the ball over, him making some read issues. If he can take care of that and just be the 6-year senior that takes care of the ball, they're going to be fine.
Joe Gunderson from Scoop Duck joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. You mentioned now that the bye week comes and then you head into conference play, and it's been weird for me, Joel, because we've known this whole time about the Big Ten and everything else, but I am so used to, and I still find myself going, all right, what's the Pac-12 slate? Oh, wait, it doesn't exist anymore. It's just, it's very odd to me when you start now kind of sizing up the conference as we are about to do at this point in the season, right? You get the non-conference done, you get out of it undefeated, you're still in the top 10. Now you take a look at the conference, what we've learned in. So I'm curious your thoughts on kind of how we see the Big Ten now. Obviously, Ohio State's still Ohio State. Is Nebraska concerning? Is Michigan not concerning? What's up with USC? That's going to be, I think, an interesting game. In the first kind of 3 weeks of the season, what's your lay of the land right now in the Big Ten in terms of maybe some teams to keep an eye on, maybe some teams to eliminate now that we're 3 weeks into the season?
Well, I think it's deeper than we thought. I mean, as exciting as the prospect of the Big Ten was, if you really went back and looked at it, it was a very top-heavy conference. And the top just happened to be very, very heavy. When you talk about Ohio State, Michigan, and I always throw Penn State in there because, let's face it, if you're outside the Big Ten and you're playing Penn State, you still think of it as a massive game. So I think the perception now is I think USC is obviously a lot better than what the national thought was. And look, I came on your show in the summer and I said I thought Lynn was one of the best hires that any team made or any school made this year, a defensive coordinator. And it's only been a couple of weeks, but we've seen it. That is a completely different team when they have even a pulse on defense. So excited to see where USC goes. I think Michigan has taken a very clear step back. And that game now in November, while still scary for an Oregon fan, doesn't look like it's going to be quite the challenge that it would have been certainly last year. And they have a few weeks to put it together, but that one's looking a little bit different. What's exciting to me is when you have a school like Illinois, clearly better under Brett Bielema. Now, I think this is his 3rd or 4th year. He's starting to get that working. When Nebraska is good, it just makes college football that much better. They're one of those programs that the whole sport benefits when they're good, and the environment in Nebraska is incredible, and so that's been really fun to watch. PJ Fleck, this looks like one of his years where maybe Minnesota's a little bit better than you think.
Yeah.
Obviously, Kurt Signetti, what he's doing in Indiana is amazing to watch already. So, instead of this being a 4 or 5 team program or conference where you're like, yeah, that's a team capable of making the playoffs, you're now looking at 7, 8, 9, maybe even 10 teams where maybe not all of them have the chance of making the playoffs, obviously, but you're looking at 8 wins, 9 wins for a lot of these programs. And what it does is just adds depth, and it forces every program that's in the conference to be better. When you know that every year half of your conference has the potential of beating you soundly on any given day, that makes the off-season training better. That makes the recruiting better. That makes the commitment from the donors better. So the whole conference in general will benefit from it. But I think that to me is through the first 3 weeks. And yes, it's only 3 weeks, so it's easy to get over your skis about stuff. But just seeing the depth of the conference has been really exciting. I mean, this weekend we have Illinois, Nebraska. 3 years ago, no one would have turned that on. That would have been on like CBS Sports Plus HQ app.
Yeah.
And now it's one of the bigger games of the weekend, and it's fun as an Oregon fan now to watch that and think this is a conference game. Even though Oregon doesn't play Nebraska this year, it's like that's fun to watch because you're invested in a way that you wouldn't have been in the past.
Well, you mentioned it's interesting, Illinois, Nebraska, because again, yeah, who didn't have Nebraska, Illinois, two ranked teams with maybe some playoff implications, and it's a Friday night game, so that's a game on tonight. How do you? I hate the Friday games. I do. I'm not a fan. I hated it when the Pac-12 did it. I don't like it when the Big Ten did it. I know why. I get it. It's a TV window, and you can't just go in and take all that money from Fox and from NBC and not have to bend over backwards a couple of times. But Joel, I hate the Friday games. I hate them.
I hate them for the most part. I think in the right situation, it can be good, and I think actually for a game for like tonight with Nebraska, Illinois, I actually think it's really beneficial for them because there's quite a few good games tomorrow, and that's one that might get lost in the shuffle a bit when you have USC, Michigan, and Tennessee, Oklahoma, and games like that. Even like Kansas or Utah, and Oklahoma State, and Kansas State, BYU. Like, there's a lot of good quality games this weekend. So for them, being able to have the showcase tonight, I actually think in that situation it works. Overall, I'm not a fan of it, and I would like to see it go away. But in the right circumstance, I think it can be really good.
Joel Gunderson from Scoop Duck joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. Joel, I think you and I at some points have the same, shall we say, temperament with Oregon football. We're prone to emotional outbursts from time to time. You like to throw them out on Twitter.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Well, you like to throw them out on Twitter sometimes. I keep them in, and my dog hears it from me. So, my dog knows all about my frustrations sometimes with Oregon football. You were very frustrated in that Boise game, as a lot of Oregon fans were. Now, week with Oregon State, week for the bye. Where's expectations at? Expectations still the same? Get to Indy and get to the college football playoff. Where are your expectations now with Oregon football? Did they get back on track with the Beaver game?
So funny enough, as much as we spent the first 5 minutes talking about where things were the first couple weeks, I went into the season thinking 10-2, and I'm actually I'm bumping it up to 11-1, which to me is more for the fact that I don't think, like I said, Michigan is not near what we thought, and I didn't think the drop off would be as drastic as it's looked. And also Wisconsin just looks like Luke Fickell is not quite the right fit there so far from what we've seen. It's still early in his tenure, but those were the two games that I had circled where if Oregon had to go 1-1 in those two, both of them being on the road, Camp Randall in November, that to me just screamed a game that Oregon might trip up on. But, boy, I'm having a hard time seeing them. If they're a focused team that's not making mistakes, we keep knocking down that door. But if that's what we get in November, I don't see Oregon losing either one of those games. So to me, it still comes down to, the way I look at the Ohio State game now is if Oregon walks out of that game, let's say it's a 3-point loss, a 6-point loss, but they were right there toe-to-toe the whole time. I think you end up feeling really good about it because this is the most talented Ohio State team I think we've seen ever. It's the most talented team in the country. When you look at all the returning that they have, all the returning starters, all the freshmen, Jeremiah Smith looks like he could be an absolute, generational talent at wide receiver. I still think that's the one game that Oregon's not going to probably be able to pull off. They can go 11-1. They really can. The schedule sets up good. You get, Purdue is the game that's 6 days after Ohio State. Even though it's on the road, Purdue looks terrible. You get a good Illinois team. But overall, I do think based on some of their opponents not looking quite as good, I think this is an 11-win team. And Oregon has to do their part by continuing to get better every week, which I think they will. I think this is a staff that really prioritizes looking eternally and getting better. And it's pretty clear outside of Ohio State that the only team that can beat Oregon, as cliche as it sounds, is Oregon. We saw that the first couple weeks. If they played clean, we wouldn't be having any of these problems. So 11-1. I think they get to Indy, and then you get to Indy and you get a chance to rematch against Ohio State. You never know what things could look like at that point.
Joel Gunderson, friend of the program from Scoop Duck, joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. One last question, Joel, and this is going to be a weird question because it's going to be a throwback to something we were talking about on the show earlier this week. Dan Orlovsky on ESPN said the best way to eat a hot dog is to cut it up and put it in macaroni and cheese. And producer Brendan said he's never had that and would never have that. Some people on the panel never heard of it before. It was a staple of me growing up. You are a father of children. I would imagine when it is. And I don't know about your cooking ability, Joel. You might be a whiz in the kitchen, but I would imagine Dad Gundy gourmets up the mac and cheese with the hot dogs.
I'm going to tell you a story.
Yeah, I love this. Let's hear a story.
This is this shows you how much you have to learn about your significant other after you've known them for a while. Our first date, I said, I want to make dinner.
Ooh.
I made, and I'm not even joking, I made my wife now of 13 years macaroni and cheese with cut up hot dogs. She is half Italian. She can cook anything. She could be very easily could be a chef if she wanted. And I made her macaroni and cheese. It was cut up hot dogs. And God bless that woman. She ate it. She acted like she liked it. And about 6 months later, she goes, I wanted to walk out the door. But
first date,
I stuck with it. I thought I was going to be good. I was like, oh, it's really, I thought I made mac and cheese different. I thought I made it better. Not gourmet. I made it out of the box, but I thought I had my own way of doing it. It's still one of my favorite meals ever going back to as a child. I've made it for my kids many times. Might have to have it for dinner tonight now that you said that, because I did not hear the segment earlier in the week, but now it's in my head and it sounds delicious.
Yeah, you know what? And boy, when the universe puts two people together, it just makes me so happy. And the fact that you got a second date after that is, kismet, meant to be.
Shows how charming I really am.
All right, you can follow Joel on the old X app or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at jgundy85. You can read his stuff on Scoop Duck, and you can hear him from time to time on this particular program, and others too. But this one is where I think home is. Joel Gunderson. Hey, Gundy, thanks so much, bud. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the bye. Enjoy your mac and cheese with hot dogs later tonight, I would assume, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Happy bye week, my friend. Have a good one.
There you go, Joel Gunderson. When he said I cooked for my wife on our first date, I was thinking like I made penne alla vodka, or I made a steak, and I made a surf and mac and cheese and hot dogs. All right, and you know what? You got a second date, Brendan. The look on your face, the look on your face. Real quick. Because you are, as we've talked about.
I don't have words.
Okay, but you're a single successful guy. What if you meet woman of your dreams and she goes, you know what, Brendan, I want to cook. I want to bring you into my home and my kitchen, and I want to cook for you. And woman of your dreams. And you walk in and she's got macaroni and cheese and hot dogs.
Yeah, that'd be psychopathic.
You just call Joel psycho?
I love Joel, but that's not how I would handle a first date.
Well, different time, maybe different place.
Yeah, I mean, hey, game. But man, that's shocking.
That's a great story, though.
Yeah, it is.
That's a great story. It's an even better story that they've been married for this long.
Yeah, that too.
That's why it's an even better story.
I'm still just shook.
I took Kelly to a bar for drinks.
That's amazing. Wow. That's the most shocking thing on Friday. Won't be topped.
100%. Shall we try, though? We might. Stuff we saw on the internet next to wrap up hour number 2, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, time to wrap up hour number 2. Big thanks again to Joel Gunderson from Scoop Duck. And always brightens our day when Joel comes on the program. We
Dropping
are both,
bombs, too.
We're both old school, passionate Oregon fans. I don't know if he would appreciate me saying we're both old school, but we are. We know about Oregon football before 2007. So there's that. And even better than that, boy, what a story. What a story he just gave us. First date, cooks for his now wife. He goes, macaroni and cheese and hot dogs.
He won, so I can't throw too much shade.
You cannot argue with the outcome. It worked.
It did. I have thoughts on the choice though, but that he won.
But we can't argue with the results, right? This whole thing started with Mike Tomlin saying, "Hey, I'm not going to give you all the ingredients to the hot dog. You might not like them. Like, you might not like the way the Steelers are playing, but they are 2-0, and you may look and go, mac and cheese with hot dogs on a first date, but a lovely wife and beautiful family, and hey, results. What do we say? Winners get sprinkles. All right. That being said, it is time to wrap up hour number 2. It is also getting close to wrapping up the week, and we love hot takes on this particular program. We don't shy away from hot takes. As a matter of fact, we lean in and we embrace hot takes. Passionate arguments about not important things is how we define our hot takes, and we save some of our spiciest for this segment right now. It is time for Hot Take Friday. This one, not much of a hot take, and I'm actually borrowing, sampling, ripping off from Brendan's Twitter feed. The disgusting, dented, dirty 1987 fridge that you have in your garage is better than any top-of-the-line smart fridge that you could put in your house right now. It may not look great, but I'll tell you what. I've never had a problem with my garage fridge. It's disgusting. It is. I would
Why
not.
Is it disgusting?
I only put drinks in there.
Yeah.
It was the fridge that was left behind from the previous owners.
Okay, that explains it.
And Kelly came in and said,
that explains it.
That we're not keeping that. And I go, can it go in the garage? And she goes, fine. Put it in the garage. And then she went online and got us a very nice fridge. Nothing extravagant, but a very nice fridge. That being said, the drinks in the garage, boy, they're never colder. You know what it doesn't do? It doesn't break down. You know what it also doesn't do? It doesn't beep at me when I keep the door open. Do you have a fridge that beeps at you? Mine does. It's like, beeping. I was like, I'm putting away groceries, fridge. Sorry that I can't. You know what the garage fridge doesn't do? It doesn't beep at me.
Well, you shouldn't.
Keeps my drinks cold.
Yeah, you shouldn't be surprised, Justin, because you remember the last time you were gone, I explained to the listening audience when I was in that chair how I had to defrost my fancy new, not even new, but just made in the last decade.
Newish.
Yeah. Samsung fridge that is a piece of junk.
You had to chisel. Ting, ting, ting,
it's
ting,
a piece
ting.
of junk. Yeah.
Compared to the garage fridge from 1987.
The old girl's still running strong, dude.
Still humming,
dude. She's rolling.
Garage. Is there a better simple pleasure in life than the garage fridge, right? Because it's not extravagant. You have to have a garage for one, and usually you could go on Facebook Marketplace right now and get one for $50. Somebody somewhere probably would just, if you could haul it, is willing to give up their fridge. And man, you throw that bad boy in the garage, it feels so good. When people come over and go, hey, what do you have to drink? Anything you want in the garage fridge. It's such a simple pleasure that doesn't, it costs you $50. Mine was free. It was left over. Well, I had to buy a house. It came along with the house. But yeah. The dirty, dusty, dented up 1992 white fridge with the freezer on top, not even a slide at the bottom. Freezer on top, no ice maker. No. Will be working before the very nice fridge that I bought from Costco and probably working after. All right, do we have some football hot takes you want to throw out there?
It's not football, but no.
No.
Wait,
Feel free.
So you go with the fridge and the pressure's on me to put the football hot take?
I apologize. I thought you had a football hot take. Maybe I misunderstood.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm like, what? I got to go football? No, my hot take's going to shock you, Justin, but this was something that came into my sphere yesterday, and I was like, respect. So, interestingly enough, Justin, hot take. Carmelo Anthony's kid. That is who and how Bronny James should have approached himself. So, Carmelo's kid, one of the top high school prospects, trying to decide where he's going to go play college this next year. And
Kyan, is that his name?
Yes.
Kyan Anthony. Okay.
Way better prospect than Bronny was. Okay.
Well, Bronny's in the NBA. What are you talking about?
Wow. That's the hot take.
Bronny's in the NBA.
So this is the hot take. There was this great interview or story that they wrote yesterday where apparently Carmelo's like, I let my son be him, no pressure, like no nothing. And, he, Kyan came on and talked about how, he's like, oh, there's no pressure to go to Syracuse. He's like, my parents don't want me to go anywhere. They're like, even if I didn't want to play basketball, there's no pressure with that. And I go, that is how you parent your star child. Take a step back, LeBron. Hot take, Kyan Anthony's going to be a better pro player than Bronny is.
Okay. So right now is 5 schools. He's got Ohio State, Florida State, Syracuse, USC, Rutgers.
Rutgers has had that pop lately. They got the 2 big stars this year.
That's right.
Ace Bailey and, gosh, can't think of the other.
Is Rutgers going to be good?
They've kind of been like, hey, we stink at football. Well, even they don't, but they're like, we're just going to be a basketball school.
They're not bad at football.
No.
They're going to beat some teams this year.
Yeah.
I do not like Greg Schiano at all.
No,
I think he's a bad guy.
Look it up, kids.
Look
it up, kids.
Do your own research. But
look up what happened to him in Tennessee, too.
I'll be darned if he's not a good football coach.
But no, I kind of read a little bit into this, and just a lot of humility coming from Kyan, and a solid just a solid what I've heard coming from the parent side with Carmelo and Lala. So I don't know. I think like when you saw like Bronny, where everybody was anointing him. And even LeBron's
but not but one person anointed him, and then the sycophants all came behind and like.
I mean, more like the media, just like how the media is like ready.
The sycophants.
Yeah, just like ready to anoint
LeBron's
him.
Bad side.
Or you think Carmelo would go in a locker room and be like, "Hey guys, Kyan can play with you right away."
Go on Twitter and say that too.
So I don't know. I saw this. I'm like, hot take. Watch Kyan be better than Bronny.
All right, there we go. We've got hour number 3. We got a special 3rd hour make or miss. We've got some. We have got some RCM mailbag to get to and some more college football talk. We've got a big couple of games coming up this weekend. That's next, 620 Rip City Radio.
8 a.m. on a Friday. Brendan Slaughter with you for Rip City Mornings. Thursday night was coming up all Ohtani as he became the first player to achieve 50 homers and 50 stolen bases in a season with a 3-run, 2 stolen base, 10 RBI night in a 20-4 rout over Miami. Meanwhile, in the NFL, Aaron Rodgers led the Jets to a 24-3 victory over the New England Patriots on Thursday Night Football, Rodgers' home debut in the Meadowlands. And in the NBA, Joel Embiid agrees to a 3-year, $192 million extension, keeping him in Philly for the foreseeable future. Coming up in 20 minutes, we got Make or Miss. Half hour, got the RCM mailbag. Whole lot more. Hour 3, Rip City Mornings.
Hey, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. Hopefully you are all having a fantastic Friday morning. We are having a great time on the big show. Why? Well, we're jacked up on fancy coffee. We're feeling good heading into the weekend. Some of us might have a 3-day weekend. And it's September, which means it's a football Friday. And while Oregon is on the bye week, Oregon State will be hosting the Purdue Boilermakers. We had that discussion earlier in the program. Is Boilermaker the coolest name in college football for a team?
I also found out, or I knew, but just think about it again. It's also the name of a cool alcoholic drink, too, Justin.
Well, it's not a very good alcoholic drink. It's pretty disgusting, as a matter of fact. I believe it's simply a shot of whiskey dropped into a beer.
I learned about that from Dumb and Dumber.
Yep. Cam Neely. Is that Seabass?
Seabass wanted Boilermakers, man.
Mega 4 Boilermakers.
Yep.
All right.
I learned about. I'm not kidding you. I'm like, what? Boilermaker? All right.
How do you think you?
They got that last laugh.
How do you think you would handle a Boilermaker, the drink? Because now, okay, I believe if I have it correct, I don't know if it's a shot dropped into a beer or if it's just simply a shot of whiskey in a beer and you just call that a Boilermaker.
So if you don't put the whiskey in the beer, it's not a Boilermaker.
It's not a Boilermaker.
Yes.
All right.
So
see, that's one of those things where it's like whiskey, good, beer, good, combined. Why?
Yeah.
Why? I don't know. We didn't need to do that. We don't need to make that combination.
Yeah, I am a.
It's like we talked about with chili dogs. Like chili is good. Dogs are. We don't need to combine them.
Yeah, I would say on the surface would not be skeptical against it, Justin, because in college my favorite drink were quote Vegas bombs, which are.
Yeah, but that's different. That's dropping the whatever the shot is.
Whiskey and peach schnapps dropped into Red Bull.
Into Red Bull.
Heck yeah, man. That's that. You want to talk about why I was 10 pounds fatter in my face in college? That's why.
I've had the Vegas bombs. I've had there's a drink that is named after Ireland.
Oh yeah,
but I don't know if we say that name anymore.
I've heard of that.
You know
one.
what I'm talking about? If you take a shot of Bailey's and you drop that in a Guinness and you pound it, which I've had plenty of those.
Okay.
On St. Patrick's Day, but it's got a name, and I don't know if we're supposed to say that name anymore.
That's fair.
But I've had those. I've had a sake bomb before. Ooh. That's just simply a shot of sake into a Red Bull.
Wait,
not as good as you think.
Oh, but not Andy Bernard style.
Not a Nagasake. No.
Not Andy Bernard style.
This is a sake bomb.
Not everyone will make it for you, though. It's seasonal.
Can't do this to me, dude. You can't do office quotes.
I know. But that being said,
I've had a flaming Dr. Pepper. Have you ever had a flaming Dr. Pepper?
No, Justin, you've had some cool stuff.
Dude, this is why I tell the kids I partied too much in college.
I want to
because my knowledge is not that of economics or literature. My knowledge is of what goes into a flaming Dr. Pepper. Now, what it is you take a beer and you take a shot of amaretto, you float some 151 rum on it, you light that son of a gun on fire, and as it is on fire, blink, you drop it in, and it's supposed to taste like a Dr. Pepper. It doesn't. Narrator voice, it did not. But I've had Jaeger bombs. But the Boilermaker will, as they say, I'll put hair on your chest. I'll put hair on your chest.
Yeah, so I hope there's a lot of Beaver fans chugging Boilermakers this weekend.
What's
Justin.
obviously your drink of choice was the the Vegas bomb, and obviously now you do the Red Bull vodkas. When you're out partying your face off, but like
I'm getting ready, Justin. I haven't really drank all that much and gearing up for when I head down to Reno for Oregon State, Nevada here in a couple weeks. There'll be a lot of Red Bull vodkas consumed that weekend.
Because like in Pullman, they say like Fireball is like their thing. In Pullman, did the Beavs have a thing? There was a drink called it's a very juvenile name, but it was called the Duck Fart. That people in Oregon, that was the celebration shot at Rennie's and at the Wild Duck and at Joggers and R.I.P. to the Rock and Rodeo, but at the Rock and Rodeo it was called a Duck Fart.
That's cool. That's cool.
That was the celebratory drink. Was there one in Corvallis?
So it wasn't something you could get at the bar, Justin, but every Beaver fan knows about beaver juice. And
okay, that was from the College Game Day, right? Because Desmond Howard said that, and then it became a whole thing.
Let me put it this way: it's like we all know what jungle juice is.
Is that where they take the stuff in the jug, like the gallon jug?
Yes.
And like, I don't know what I don't know what goes in it, but.
A lot of Everclear. I'll say that. A lot of Everclear. A lot of vodka, a lot of orange juice, a lot of fruit.
Okay.
Like, I'll say this. Again, that old saying, Justin, don't drink the punch at a party, right? But my goodness, back in college,
I used to drink the punch at the party
when
all
you
the time.
could get a ladle of that jungle juice and you got the apples and the oranges that had been soaking in there and the cherries for like 10 hours.
Mm-hmm. And it tastes like pure lighter fluid.
You're like, oh, man. You're like, I can get a little buzzed off the fruit. So, I remember very fond memories of that. And I knew a couple people who really went all out making that. Actually, I did once myself.
A couple things. Go to class, kids, and
I made it in a giant tub.
And two, get an Uber, okay? So I think we've covered our bases here. Go to class, get an Uber.
Would it surprise you the one time, Justin? I made it in an industrial tote. Like we made it in a tote because we could not find.
What do you mean a tote?
Like things you would put things like plastic.
like a Rubbermaid?
Yeah.
Like what I put my Christmas decorations into?
So
you took like a Rubbermaid.
Yes.
Thing that like people in their garage have their Christmas decorations in, and you decided to make jungle juice.
The one time we did, man, and that thing was gone by the end of the party. I'll tell you that much.
Oh yeah,
it's popular.
Yeah,
but made it in a
definitely
tote,
would steal
Justin.
that
In a tote. And you're like, man, you want to talk about cheap college kids? There.
All right, we've got some. So that being said, hey, Purdue's in town. We talked about it earlier. Fairly confident. Can I say something real quick? And I know it comes from me, and Oregon State fans hate it because I sound like a hater. But just from a football perspective, can we end the let's give the backup quarterback a series in the game? Can we just end that? Can we just be done with that down in Corvallis? Like I don't think it mattered in the ultimate outcome of the game. But Brendan, there was a clear shift in momentum in that Civil War game when they took McCoy out and put because I was like, did McCoy get hurt? Because how was it? It was 2 third downs he picked up with his legs. That led to what should have been a scoring drive to open the game, but they blocked the field goal and the penalty. That wasn't McCoy's fault. And then they scored a touchdown with McCoy, and they just take him out. Like the guy was kind of cooking.
Third drive of the season or third drive of every game. I think it's going to be that way this year.
It seems so unnecessary. I understand why you did it with Aiden Childs last year because you didn't want him to transfer, and you're like, we're going to give you, something to look forward to. But McCoy was kind of cooking, and just like killed the.
I mean, there
moment.
is.
I don't think it affected the ultimate outcome of that game, but. It seems so silly to me.
There's something to that same theory, Justin, because they do believe the future of that position is Jabari Johnson. He's a redshirt freshman. He's a 4-star, and
I think the future is with Dante Moore. And if Dan Lanning came out and said every third series, we're going to put Dante in there. I'd be like, what on earth are you doing?
I see where you're going.
You got to get every win you can. You got to get every possession you can this season.
I mean, I see where you're going. I think the situations are uniquely different.
Very different. You're right.
Very uniquely different. That being said, Justin, it's not like he's been solid, but it's not like you're looking like, man, Giovanni McCoy's been so good that you can't even consider anyone else the position.
Well, what I'm saying is,
I think you just keep that.
I
don't agree with it either.
You
but
got to have a feel.
Like
you can go in with that plan, but in that situation, like had some momentum and had some rhythm, and it's like, we'll get to that later. Maybe sometimes you just don't do it. You watch, obviously, I didn't watch the Idaho State game. I was too busy watching Oregon struggle with Idaho. And obviously the San Diego State game. But so it's not like McCoy's been lighting the world on fire, like 21 points against San Diego, and they ran the ball the entire time against Idaho State. I don't know. I'm just saying, watching that game, and I'm like, that seemed like a mistake. Not a game
in that game
costing mistake, but it felt like a mistake. And it's like, against Purdue, if your guy's cooking, leave him in there.
Yeah, I'd be shocked.
Just let him cook.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if they do anything different just because
these coaches get so stubborn.
Yeah, I mean,
and this is not a knock on Trent Bray. I've got nothing against Trent Bray. Other coaches do this too. They get so stubborn.
Well, I'll tell you this. From what I've heard, Justin, it's not Trent Bray making that. That is 100% Ryan Gunderson. So again, that's the rub of having a defense.
Jonathan did it last year.
Very different. Jonathan, offensive background, offensive coach. He was always going to have his hand in the offense. Trent Bray, for lack of better terms, is kind of like, I still kind of do defense. I'll oversee, but Gundy, you're making the decisions. And like we said on our podcast this week, we're seeing it. We saw this last week. Ryan Gunderson, first-time offensive coordinator. You're still seeing some of those growing pains and maybe not figuring out how to, or I don't even want to say not figuring out, but just the wanting to do it no matter what is just something he's stubborn with being a first-time OC. Right? It is what it is.
I will say this. Calling plays has got to be so hard.
Oh, yeah.
Calling plays.
Unless you have just ridiculous dudes. It's probably really easy to call plays.
But even still, though, you've got 11 seconds to make a call, and it's like, you got the scripted plays at the beginning of the game, but then it's like, what's their defense doing, and what's our personnel look like, what's down distance, calling plays in a football game, because we all criticize it because we're fans. But I am here to say, I know I just kind of threw out some criticism. Let me back it up with a that's got to be so hard. It's got to be so hard to call plays.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
Because you have a whole list of plays, and you're like, let's try this.
So this will be fun, and maybe we'll tease it as we get into make or miss.
I love fun stuff.
Who would you say? Let's just keep it simple and go since 2000.
Mm-hmm.
Name me some of the offensive coordinators who had the easiest play calling jobs. Right? So it's like, I throw out, Joe Brady didn't have to do a whole lot with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Didn't have to, I think Norm Chow with USC in 03-04. I doubt that would hand it off to Lendale or Reggie.
What's his name? He's at Central Florida now.
Not him, but I'd say Scott Frost, 2012. Really easy to call plays.
Why can't I think of his name? He's a head coach at Central Florida. He was at Auburn.
Gus Malzahn.
Gus Malzahn in 2010.
Yeah.
Dude, Cam?
Yeah, just go.
And Michael Dyer was really good, too.
He
was down, but he was also
05,
really
Texas, whoever that OC is, just said, Vince Young, go do your thing. Just go do it. Just go scramble. You're good.
And, and I've heard from guys that played on the team, Chip Kelly, because I know Helfrich was the coordinator, but Chip Kelly was calling the plays. Oregon, that 9, 10, 11, 12, they ran 5 plays.
Yeah, you said they ran the same inside zone over and over
But
again.
they just had 50 different combinations, and they ran 5 plays. All right, we got Make or Miss. That's coming up next, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, earlier in the big show, we talked to our good friend Joel Gunderson of Scoop Duck. So we did the old switcheroo, which means you now get a special third-hour edition of Make or Miss. Before we get to Make or Miss, I do want to let you know Rip City Drive is bringing the show to Haven Spa, Pool, and Hearth in Clackamas. That's Friday, a week from today, September the 27th. That's from 3 to 6. Chad and Dwight are going to be there broadcasting live, and they encourage you to help fill the Viking Spa with new and gently used sports balls for the Boys and Girls Club of the Portland metro area. All the details on the events page at ripcityradio.com. Now, let's go to Make or Miss.
All right, Justin. Can I be vulnerable and honest with you for a moment? When you said
we're 100% honest on this particular program.
When you
yes.
said do the old switcheroo. So this is how my brain works. Anytime anyone says that to me, and you'll get the reference. And again, silly, just another Office reference on this show. But every time I think when Michael Scott goes, Yankee swap. Just every time. As it turns out, we bought those gifts for specific people. Michael, no, Yankee swap.
It's nowhere close to as good as an iPod.
Wow, who went all out? There's supposed to be a $25 limit, right? Someone went all out. I had to fire somebody.
We'll probably talk about it in a couple of weeks, or not weeks, excuse me, a couple of months when Christmas gets a little bit closer. And it's a Christmas hot take of mine. White Elephant, Secret Santa, Yankee Swap, Screw Your Neighbor is another name they call it.
They all stink.
I hate them all.
Yeah, they all stink.
I hate them all. I know that it's a fun way, Secret Santa's not so bad. That one's not, where you draw a name and you buy something.
Specifically for somebody.
But it's the white elephant, and everybody buys something, and you get it, and then you can steal it, and then
I don't like it.
It takes so long.
It does.
And nobody really wants, and you ever get to the thing where it's like, oh, actually, I really do want that, and then somebody thinks it's funny because, oh, they want that, let's steal it. It's like, you don't want, the Christmas spirit is lost. I hate all of them.
Now, I'll say this, Justin.
I hate all of them.
Have you ever been to a awesome Christmas party?
Multiple times.
A work Christmas party?
Yes.
Because,
Had my fair share of fun at some Christmas parties.
Yeah,
I've also been to some lame ones.
Yeah, I can't say in a previous job, but no, it was wow, an open bar. Everyone brought a gift, that. That was cool. It was like an off-campus Christmas party, if that makes sense. And since then, I'm like, oh, that's like the gold standard of Christmas parties. But no, Justin, I imagine, as a kid, I grew up and I'm watching, oh, The Office.
I used to get so frustrated. Little inside radio rant here. So obviously we do mornings here. I've been doing mornings here for approximately 3 years. Actually, over 3 years now. Isn't that nuts? When did we start? We started February 21, right? When did the Beavs go on the Elite Eight run?
Yeah, that was February 21.
That was when we started. So February 21.
That means I've been in this chair for 4 then.
You've been there for 4. I've been here 3.5 years, nearly 4 years. And we do mornings. In a previous life, I did 6 years of mornings, and it's part of the gig. If you get up and be a goofball for a job, which is unbelievable. The drawback is you got to get up really early, and people sometimes, even in the office that you work in, don't quite understand that. And so I would always have such beef because we would have our Christmas parties when I was in Eugene on a Tuesday night. And why are we having our Christmas party on a Tuesday? Do you realize that the morning show people cannot enjoy this? Because you have your Christmas party on a Tuesday night, and then you come to find out, it's same reason, we needed to save money. We really didn't have a lot in the budget. Did you want an open bar? Because we can't do that on a Friday night. We can only afford a Tuesday night open bar. So it's either have it on a Friday or Saturday and you pay for drinks, or
it's fair.
I used to get so mad.
Where's Michael Scott coming in being like, it's been a really tough year. I had to fire Devin. Is this enough alcohol to get 40 people drunk? Yeah, I think you'll be okay. That whole where he's just whipping out the cash.
The days of The Office just buying a bunch of booze. There's a thing called liability now, and there's a thing called HR, which is why Toby was all.
Well, Toby was told not to show up.
But yeah, I was like, why are we doing our party on a Tuesday? Like, I got to get up and do the show. Never mind. Enough of me complaining. Let's get to make or miss. Yankee swap.
All right, firing up make or miss. Got to start here. There'll be about 1 million people who live in Los Angeles who say they were in Miami for last night's game.
Did you see the guy that missed the 50th home run ball by 4 inches? It was like
that been worth so much money.
Do you think that stuff is still worth money? I heard it's getting back up there, and if the Dodgers win the World Series this year in Shohei's 50-50 year, then yeah, absolutely.
But imagine
that ball's going to be worth a pretty penny. But the guy in my first off, credit for any fan to show up because the Marlins stink.
I think about what you were saying about just the how Shohei has an entire country behind him in Japan.
Yeah.
You might be able to sell that ball to somebody in Japan for an
very good point.
Worldly amount of money. Who's like, yeah, I got to get Ohtani's 50-50 ball. So,
yeah, that's a very, very good point. And there was this guy, and because you know how they do kind of picnic seating out in the behind the fences. This guy was in his little picnic seating, and he was he was literally 6 inches from the ball, and was just out of his reach, and then here come new guy came in and swooped it up. I agree with you. I think there's going to be a lot of Dodger fans who maybe even weren't even watching last night, but will say that they were. What's the Beaver game? Because for Oregon fans of my age, the answer is the Kenny Wheaton game. Right? 1994, Oregon, Washington, Kenny Wheaton's going to score. That's the game that everybody lies about they were at. I was not at that game.
It's easy.
That one hurts, but I was not at that game. But that's the game that everybody says they were at.
There were probably about 400,000 Beaver fans there when they beat number 1 USC on a Thursday night. So it was a Thursday.
Now, what's funny, you were there.
I was
there. 100% of this particular radio program was there because I loved it when the Beavs played home games on Thursday nights because I would get to go. And I remember because they beat the number 1 team.
Yeah.
And then what was the other? When was US? They beat them twice.
In 2006, they were number 3 and beat them.
3.
And that was when their streak had been, only Texas had beat them. So, the conference streak was still there. That was kind of when Pete Carroll started to realize, hey, not going to recapture that magic with John David Booty, Mark Sanchez, and this guy named Matt Barkley. They're not Lionheart, man. Not Carson Palmer.
I've told the story a handful of times.
But that night.
Because that there's that clip of Mark Sanchez walking off, and he's throwing. So, if you look close and you pause it just right, you see my feet. Because he's walking right past me.
That's cool. But yeah, I would say
media credentials are real
there's a
fun
lot
back
of Beaver
then.
fans oh yeah, I saw Quiz. Nah, man, if you weren't one of the 44,000 that were there to see, and all the dudes for USC too, mind you, Brian Cushing, Ray Malaluga. Guys who went and played in the NFL for years. But Justin, even still, I got
which one? Clay Matthews?
Yes,
Clay Matthews, because Casey Matthews was playing
for Oregon. Yeah, and people ask me all the time. I actually got asked.
Casey Matthews. He was so awesome.
He was.
He was so awesome.
Both those dudes were so talented. But I got asked this recently, and I think it's because the 2022 CW makes it up there. People are like, "Oh, this 2022 CW got to be one of the best games you've ever seen at Reeser," and I go, "It's up there." But you'll never top beating number 1. And not...
you're right. That's a really good pull.
And
that Thursday night game.
And not a fake number 1, Justin, because that team went on to beat the dog out of everybody else they played that season. I know because I look it up all the time. I go, oh, yeah, what'd they do against Oregon the next week? Beat them 44-10.
Yeah, it was a rough season,
what
06.
What did they do?
06 was a rough season for the Ducks.
08.
Or 08? Yeah, 08 was even...
That was, and,
it was a rough patch in 08. It ended well.
Justin,
season ended well in 08. Rough patch, though, in the middle of it.
Tell me if you think Pete Carroll's Trojans were a little peeved. In 3 of the next 4 weeks, they beat Pac-12 teams 28. They beat Arizona State 28-0. Beat Washington State 69-0. Beat Washington 56-0. That team went 12-1. They kicked the dog out of Penn State. That team was so flipping good.
I know I'm going to be a hypocrite here. All right. I am going to be a hypocrite here. I'm going to be a hypocrite here. All right. I've said it 3 times, just like Beetlejuice. All right. If there was a playoff,
they would have won it that year.
Does USC have at least two national titles, 2 more than they already won? I think they do. If there was a playoff, 2000 Oregon State has got a chance at a national title. If there was a play, like, you know what I mean? There's a handful of teams in there from 2000 to 2013 that who knows what the Pac-12 is looked at if USC wins a couple of national titles.
So
they win a couple more, I guess I should say. Or if Oregon State wins a national title. And I don't think Oregon would have beaten Miami in 2001. I don't believe they would have. But what's the perception of the conference if they got to play in that game? And it wasn't the complete blowout that Nebraska took. I don't know.
So let's play this fun game, just because I was able to look it up real quick. So that year, it was Sam Bradford versus Tim Tebow in the championship. Those two teams.
It was 08?
So technically 09, but the 08 season, yes. So they go 1-2. Texas, with I would assume is Colt McCoy at the time, is number 3. Alabama with a young Greg.
That was also a season. Texas, they beat the holy heck out of Oklahoma, and then they lost to Texas Tech. That was the Michael Crabtree game.
Yes.
And there was an interception that Texas had that was dropped that would have won the game. And then 2 snaps later, Michael Crabtree goes full Megatron. I know that was Calvin Johnson. But he goes
I know what you mean.
full Godzilla
He
and
had
just
his
was
moment.
like, I will not be denied this end zone.
But like this 12-team playoff would have been outstanding. So you had Bama at 4, young Greg McElroy and Mark Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
USC at 5, we just talked about them. An undefeated Kyle Whittingham Utah team, 12-0, beat the Beavers that year.
And that team went to the Sugar Bowl, beat Alabama.
They did. So
and
again,
a top 10 Alabama team.
Does Utah again? So Utah comes in at 6.
Is that
Texas Tech?
That's not Jacoby Brissett, is it?
No, that Utah team was Brian Johnson.
Brian Johnson,
who I believe is the quarterback's coach for the Commanders now, so he's still hanging around.
Okay,
but let me get through this 12. So Texas Tech comes in at 7, 11-1.
Mm-hmm.
Penn State, well, this is where it gets real. An undefeated Boise team with Kellen Moore. Yep. Ohio State, TCU, Cincinnati. That would have been your 12-team playoff that year. Holy heck, that would have been fun.
All right, here's what's interesting, though. In the new format, right, because remember, Utah was Mountain West, and Boise, I believe, was WAC.
Yes.
So do they both get in? I don't know. I don't know if they both get in.
Next tier of teams who start getting to 3 losses, so probably. But you don't know. So, again, things are very different back then. I'm going purely off the BCS rankings back then. But, shoot, could you imagine if we had Utah and Boise State?
Both in a playoff?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, it was good time.
I think Boise would have gotten thanks, but no thanks.
It would have been like, yeah.
Real cute.
Anywho, so that was a rabbit hole about that. What was that make or miss, Justin? Let's see. That make or miss was, 1 million people in LA. Say they're going to be there for Miami.
I think the other game that Oregon fans, I think, lie about being at was the 09 Halloween game where they beat the bricks off of USC and essentially ended the Pete Carroll dynasty that night.
That was 09, right?
09 Halloween game. They ended the USC dynasty that night.
LaMichael ran crazy.
LaMichael went crazy. It was a night game. It was Halloween. Game day was there. It was nuts.
That was the end of Pete.
I think that's one of those games where a lot of Oregon fans were like, hey, I was there. It's like,
it's my belief that
was 400,000 people fit in Autzen Stadium.
I mean, you look at USC that year, Pete might have started talking to Paul Allen after that week. I'll just throw that out there.
I think he was talking before that week.
Just like he was talking
remember
before that.
the NCAA was breathing down their neck.
Turns out not that big of a deal, though, because Reggie got it back.
Does Pete Carroll get a bit of a pass? And I love Pete Carroll. Does he? But not. Does he get almost too much of a pass? He skipped town
He did.
when the sheriff started.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But because he won a Super Bowl in Seattle and stayed forever at Seattle, it seems like he did it. It wasn't I'm leaving to avoid trouble. He's like, no, he left and he built the Seahawks into a Super Bowl
That's
team.
helpful.
So he doesn't take the slings and the arrows that I think he maybe would have.
Yeah, no, it's definitely helpful. There was the joke forever, Justin, and again, whether it's right or wrong, but like it was just the joke consistently. It was Pete. I cheated and got the bleep out. Like that was it.
But the fact that he won a Super Bowl,
it changed
it
everything.
legitimized it because when he left, there were a lot of because Seahawks. They had the Super Bowl in 2005, but they weren't very good.
No, they weren't.
Obviously, they fired Jim Mora. I think that's who they fired. I think they fired Jim Mora.
It was Jim Mora, yeah.
And
Jim Mora Jr., I should say.
And Pete Carroll playoffs. That was Jim Mora Sr.
Yeah.
But people looked at that move and goes, Pete Carroll, why is he leaving USC to go the Seahawks? Well, and the fact that he turned them into a monster for about 9 years. I don't think he takes the criticism of skipping town before the long arm of the law got there. And I guess
entirely true.
I guess good for him.
No,
you
true,
did it.
right?
Like you did it.
I mean, again,
like if Urban Meyer would have won in Jacksonville, do we look differently at his exit? Because remember, there was some stuff going on at Ohio State.
Zach Smith is a terrible human being.
Was Zach Smith, but there was also other stuff going on.
Sure.
But if he would have won in Jacksonville,
probably would have changed everything.
Changes everything.
And
Pete Carroll did. But the thing was, he didn't. He was clowned in the NFL, and not for long. That's what the NFL stands for.
Yeah, and it's just so funny because we would sit here and we wouldn't be, flicking Urban all the crap that he gets in like the Gators. Like say he won a Super Bowl before he did like the Swamp Kings documentary. We go, well, Super Bowl coach. I know. So go figure. But all right, let's close out on this one, Justin, because I've been waiting to talk about this all day. Derek Carr and his 2-0 Saints could give a bleep about your fine, Roger.
Did he fine him?
Yeah.
How much did he get?
Let me look that up. I did not see the exact number, but let me look.
So Derek Carr scores a touchdown, one of multiple touchdowns against the Dallas.
$14,000.
$14,000.
But for a guy on a max, that's nothing. That's nothing.
He's fine. But what I'm more fascinated by is what possessed Derek Carr to go to the 1987 Michael Jackson dance. Like Michael Jackson, one of the greatest pop stars of all time. Separate art from artist, but
we got to do that a lot these days.
Michael Jackson's been dead for 15 years.
He has.
Like not really culturally relevant, right? He'll be culturally relevant forever. He's an icon. But like, did Derek Carr just decide, you know what? I need to bust out the Michael Jackson.
So
it's fascinating that that's the route he went.
So apparently,
and it cost him $14,000.
Yeah. So he apparently as a promise to his family, Justin.
Okay.
He said, "Quote: People don't know a lot of stuff about me. Weddings or birthdays, I'm always the one on the dance floor. One time I hit the Michael Jackson, and my brother was like, "Bro, you have to do that the next time you score."
Okay. Thank you. Very good backstory.
But a $15,000 little experiment there. I wish things rich people could do, Justin. I wish I could be like, yeah, I'm going to try this. Oh, $15,000? Okay, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Imagine being the guy in the NFL office who is like, we have to assign a financial penalty to a crotch grab. Like that's your job. Like you got to watch the Derek Carr celebration, decide how much the grabbing of the junk, how much that's going to cost him, and come up with $14,000.
And I'm ask because I don't remember, Justin. Did Baker get suspended or fined, or you can't get fined, but suspended at all in college for his? Which that would be the great irony.
I don't remember
if you could do it in college, but you get fined $15,000.
I don't remember. He won the Heisman that year. I don't know if he got suspended. Anyways, that's going to do it for Make or Miss. We have got the RCM mailbag to wrap up the big show next, 620 Rip City Radio. Okay, time to wrap up the big show. But we still have a good solid 8 minutes of work to put in right now, and we do the same thing each and every day. We have the RCM mailbag. It is random questions. It is any subject, it is any topic. Nothing is off limits, and I repeat, will not duck the tough questions. We learn, we grow, we have a very good time. Come along with us, will you? It's time for the mailbag.
All right, firing at the big mailbag. To conclude our conversation from last, since anyone was curious, yes, Justin and I were able to look. Yes, you get penalized more in the NFL for doing
For grabbing the junk.
Yes, than you do in college.
Baker Mayfield in college, when he grabbed his junk on national TV against Kansas, he got suspended 2 plays.
2 snaps.
Okay.
Yep.
That'll teach him.
Yep, that'll teach him. All right. I found that very entertaining. And just, it's just like, we've known that for a while, Justin. Like, I mean, in different ways, because like we've mentioned forever, like if you're good at what you do, you kind of get some different rules, right?
That's everywhere in life. When we say winners get sprinkles, that's what we mean. When you say winners get sprinkles, they get the airtime, they get the attention, and they get the breaks.
So let me ask
you
what
this. Happens. It's dude, hot girl privilege.
Okay,
in life.
Okay, so let me ask you this: if Derek Carr,
you ever been to a bar? There's a big old long line
girls
at the
go in front,
bathroom,
man.
and a hot girl just jumps right in front. Like nobody says anything.
Oh, absolutely. I remember being at the club in Corvallis where the big girl being like, "Hey, can I jump the boys' line?" I'm like, "Yeah, by all means, go right in front of me."
Yeah, see you should have been defending it with the brothers.
No, man.
No.
Me and every other guy are like, yeah, you can go right ahead.
Go right ahead.
But that all being said, I just think that's interesting, Justin, because if, let's say Derek Carr, for all sake, okay, let's say Bryce Young did this in a loss.
Oh, my God. We'd be cooking him, yeah.
Well, no. Is he fined more than $14,000?
No, but I think...
okay, so the money's consistent?
But the criticism is very different.
Okay, because you don't think, like, if you're good, it's maybe less. If you're not so...
Nah.
Okay, so the NFL is consistent,
well,
equal punishment.
Let me go this way. What if Patrick Mahomes did it? What if Patrick Mahomes busted out the Michael Jackson and grabbed the junk?
I think it'd be like an apology, and he'd be fine.
You're just like, hey, Patrick, don't do it again. All right? We cool?
Hey, I got one really...
We're still friends?
Okay, that's a great pull, Justin, but I'm going to get one to go the other way. What if Deshaun Watson did it?
Yeah, then...
After everything that he's done...
Way more
What
money.
if Deshaun did it?
Yep.
That big fine? Or
Probably
he's
about
suspended?
30 G's. He should be... Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't know the facts of the case. I just know hearsay, but how is Deshaun Watson still playing football?
Well, it's almost like the karma god came after him because he really
He
hasn't...
got a win last week.
Yeah, but even still...
And he played better. I'm surprised he's played football. Anyways, let's get to a mailbag question.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was it was definitely entertaining. But yeah, karma's undefeated, Justin. Still is. Let's go ahead and fire up the mailbag. Oh, we talked about this earlier. Do you truly believe that fridges from the 70s and 80s were just built better?
100%.
Or not? Let's go in the 90s, because I think my fridge in the garage is a 90s fridge. And
it's not that they were built better. Complexity, yes, brings convenience. Complexity also brings things that can go wrong.
So like digital
more
screens?
Stuff means more things that can go wrong. It's Murphy's Law. Cars from, now they burned a lot of gas and were probably not good for the ozone layer. But when you didn't have a computer in your car, seemed to work just fine. You see some of those old, Chevy trucks, they fire up every time. When you add bells and whistles and things that can go wrong, it's adding more complexity. But backup cameras are kind of cool, too. So that's helpful. But, yeah, I think those old fridge, they had one job, the old fridge. Keep stuff cold. That's it. That's all. One job.
Speaking of that point,
where now the fridge is like, you got a crisper, you've got a smart fridge. It'll beep at you if you keep the door open. Does it have water in the door? Is the water filtered? Do you have to change out the filter? What about the hopper where the ice goes? All the old school fridge. Hey, as long as you keep the light goes on when door comes open and keep stuff cold.
Yeah, no,
I think they work better.
it's funny. That's almost like that's it. It's true.
Yeah,
I think
100%.
that for what it's worth, there's the age-old argument, Justin. I guarantee you, your brand new fridge inside is using probably 50% less power than the one in the garage that is
Yeah, that's true.
like
The
power.
the power
Energy
output.
suck. That's probably true. But no, I think it's totally fair. And I grew up when we had a fridge in our garage, Justin. It was from at least the 70s or
It's
60s.
the best.
And it just
Did it have one of those hinge openers?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like
That's
it was green, which tells you just the time,
buddy.
and you're like, who would have bought a green fridge?
Oh, dude, Seafoam was a thing, dude.
Different times,
I have
man.
vivid memories of as a child. My parents bought. I was born in '79. My parents bought the house right before I was born. So the house was, I believe, built '78. The house I grew up in. Shout out Joel Allen Court. Brendan, the floor of the kitchen, yellow linoleum. Not making a lot of better homes and gardens now. I don't think it's still down there, but yeah, yellow linoleum was the kitchen floor
Dude, you should be
in the house that I grew up
Did you
in.
have shag carpet too?
I don't know if it was shag, but it was carpet. There was wall to wall.
I remember
We had wall to wall carpet.
Yeah, carpet was insane. Like
and a TV that weighed about 2,000 pounds.
so true. So true. But yeah, no, that's fridges, like they said, Justin, make fridges great again. They used to be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't need to beep at me. All right?
I don't need to know.
I don't need but yeah, that energy bill is probably helpful.
That's true.
Probably helpful. Do you ever see one of those with the windows where like you tap it and it shows you the inside?
They're cool, but
Yeah.
I don't have. Yeah, they're cool.
I think it might be a little too much. All right. You know what wasn't too much? This show. We had a great time. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks to Joel Gunderson from Scoop Duck. Thanks to super producer Brendan. Thanks to all of you. Have a terrific weekend. Brendan's in the chair on Monday. I'm back on Tuesday, 620 Rip City Radio.